Book Summary: Atomic Habits by James Clear. Key Insights: we all have our own routines that carry us through the day. On closer inspection, these routines are made up of repetitive behaviors or habits. In Atomic Habits, James Clear asks us to consider the nature of our habits. Are they serving long-term goals or preventing us from progressing? Clear urges that because the effects of these behaviors compound, all long-term outcomes are affected by them. He explains that in order to eventually live a life we're proud of, change starts at the atomic level of habits. Although changing your habits may seem like a small act, they can affect your life enormously in the long run. Habits may seem like no big deal. When we imagine taking on running as a habit, we think of how it will take years to run any faster or longer. Our habit of sleeping in a few hours may seem like it's not worth fixing, given those hours of rest feel so good. But Clear points out that although it may only involve 15 minutes or an hour of our day, after a certain number of weeks, months, and years, the amount of time these habits are practiced becomes hugely significant. A year from now, you could have put in 91 hours running or spent 530 hours practicing a hobby in the morning instead of sleeping. The long-term effects of habits should not be underestimated. This is why Clear calls them atomic habits, the foundation of remarkable results. As they're practiced, they become easier and have increasingly large effects. Ultimately, it's this daily practice of anything that allows us to attain any goals we set for ourselves. Clear explains that although it may be hard to notice their effect in the short term, we should still focus on pointing ourselves in the direction we wish to end up in by basing our habits around our goals. In any given moment, ask yourself, are my habits supporting my dreams? If no, habits should be adjusted until the trajectory is right. Your identity is made up of habits, so align your habits with the person you want to be. An alternative way to think about these small changes rather than thinking them as goal-based habits is by seeing them as steps toward the person you want to become. Because our identities arise from our actions and habits are behaviors we repeat on a regular basis, it follows that habits are strongly connected to our identities. Clear asks us to consider the person we want to be and the sorts of habits that a person would have. By shifting our habits to fall more in line with this conception, we move closer to becoming the person we were always meant to be. A habit is an action performed so frequently that it becomes automatic, and developing new habits helps conserve energy. When you imagine the habits in your life, they likely don't involve much thinking anymore. Brushing your teeth feels mindless, for example, or taking that cigarette break comes as second nature. A habit, by definition, is a behavior that has become automated. Evolutionarily, habits helped reduce our cognitive load by creating shortcuts for certain tasks we've done many times before. After doing something for a period of time, the brain learns through trial and error how to do it faster and better. This stress reduction technique is how new habits are born. This is what makes habits so difficult to break. They're the easiest part of the day. The first step toward better habits is acknowledging the existing ones. Creating better habits, and in turn, a better identity, involves building an action plan around who we already are and working with the environment we already live in. Clear recommends performing an audit on all the habits in our lives, sorting them into things aligned with our long-term goals and those that aren't. Then, take a closer look at bad habits. Clear writes that all bad habits are built on some underlying beliefs. Maybe you believed that smoking would help you relax, or that you're not the type of person who exercises. Consider whether these beliefs align with your ideal identity. Are they preventing you from changing for the better? Decide which beliefs simply don't hold up anymore. Finally, set up a system where you check in with your long-term goals. In a month, you may experience some major life changes and want something different than what you want now. By continuously checking that your habits are still aligned, you will remain on the right path. Habits are often a response to certain cues or triggers, so consider which environmental factors correspond to your habits. Over the course of human history, habits were a way of moving people from a less desirable state to a more desirable state on a regular basis. People learned that upon seeing water, they should reflexively move to drink it to satisfy their thirst. When seeing their child cry, they should move to soothe them to satisfy anxiety about the child's safety. We developed habits for eating, drinking, sleeping, and watching predators, all of which kept us alive. Many of our habits are still based on automatic responses to cues as the brain directs us towards a well-known and ingrained solution. These days, this response to environmental cues may be working against us. For example, seeing that vending machine at work may have created your habit of drinking a soda regularly. The machine catches your eye, and your body anticipates the pleasure it will feel when drinking it, habitually moving you to buy one. After your soda, you may feel good, but the constant sugar intake doesn't serve your long-term health. Clear asks us to consider which of our habits are caused by triggers. Maybe you feel like eating potato chips when seeing them in the cabinet or spending an hour in front of TV because it looks so enticing in the living room. By removing these temptations entirely, bad habits become much easier to curb since the cycle of craving doesn't have a chance to restart. Good habits can also be triggered by certain environmental cues. For example, if you see that your workout clothes and water bottle are neatly laid out by the door, you remember that you promised to go to the gym that day. By giving yourself this cue, you're more likely to follow through than if the reminder wasn't there. Make good habits easy and bad habits difficult. There's a reason you'd rather scroll through your phone than read Greek philosophy. Bad habits often reoccur because they're easy. The brain prefers them because it's always looking to conserve energy, making the easiest options the most pleasurable. As we all know, making good choices involves some work, which is why many people are never able to switch over to them. Clear writes that you should work with the mechanisms of your brain by helping these good habits compete with the bad ones and making them as easy as possible to accomplish. Clear recommends reducing as much friction as possible between remembering to practice and starting the behavior. For example, if you want to regularly read more books, download everything you need to your e-reader beforehand. This way, the small hurdle of picking up the device is the only real hurdle to starting. Another way to make habits easier is by introducing them gradually into an already established routine and linking good habits to existing ones. For example, you may already go on a daily run, but wish you'd stretch more. By deciding to stretch before each run, you make the introduction of the habit easier and more intuitive than finding time to stretch independently. This is known as habit stacking. If good habits continue to seem too daunting, Clear suggests using the 2-minute rule, which states that committing only 2 minutes makes any task feel manageable. Normally, once started, the habit becomes easier to continue on with. While good habits should be easy, bad habits should be the opposite. By increasing friction or making them more difficult to perform, like putting your bottles of alcohol on a high shelf, for example, if you're trying to stop drinking, you're more likely to feel they're not even worth the effort. Luckily, the more you practice good habits, the easier they eventually become. Take comfort in the fact that each effort to learn a habit is an investment into a routine that will eventually be both easy and healthy. Choose habits that complement your personality and abilities. While you may look at someone who runs marathons or practices coding skills for hours at a time and feel admiration, these difficult habits may simply not be possible to adopt at your current skill level or even suit your unique personality. If running doesn't ever feel good, choose an alternative habit that works towards better fitness like walking in nature or swimming. If your habits are things you actually like and feel good at, you'll be more likely to sustain them. Additionally, our skill level should be considered when actually practicing these habits. Clear suggests finding a balance between what we find easy and what we find challenging, but always working at the edge of our ability. By challenging ourselves, we avoid boredom, feel a greater sense of satisfaction after completing the habit, and can grow more quickly. Make good habits attractive and satisfying by trying temptation bundling. Recall how you feel before doing your favorite things. Maybe you feel giddy excitement when thinking about meeting up with a good friend or a pleasurable calm when heading to a day at the beach. This is because the brain's pleasure system releases dopamine when it anticipates a pleasurable activity. and what keeps us returning to activities that make us happy or compelled to repeat experiences. Clear writes that habit formation can benefit from this system if we find ways to make our habits seem exciting, satisfying, and attractive. One way to make a behavior more attractive is through temptation bundling, or the pairing of a habit you need to do with the one you'd really like to do. For example, if you want to run more often and also like catching up on your favorite show, you could only allow yourself to watch the show while running on a treadmill. This way, the running becomes associated with getting to watch the next episode. Another way to make activities more satisfying is by linking them with a social activity. By joining a running group, a book club, or a cultural organization, you reap the benefits of connection and conversation while also regularly working towards developing healthy habits like distance running or careful reading. A third way to make habits attractive is by allowing yourself an immediate reward after the behavior is completed. For example, after your budget for the week is completed, you take yourself out for ice cream or get a friend to send you $1. Commitment devices can help reinforce good habits and punish bad habits. Because habits take some time to pay off, Clear recommends keeping a habit tracker to help yourself with staying accountable. The tracker should list all the behaviors you wish to turn into habits and offer some way of noting when you performed and when you didn't. Every time you look at the tracker, you'll be able to see just how far you've come. This method of accountability has been used by many throughout history, including Benjamin Franklin, who nightly tracked his daily commitment to a set of 13 virtues. Clear also recommends commitment devices as a tool to stay committed to long-term goals. Commitment devices are just that, devices that keep you committed to activity by tying an immutable consequence to the failure to follow through with something. For example, you may wish to save more and set up a commitment device that doesn't allow you to access the money until you've reached a certain balance. This way, if you don't keep contributing, you won't ever have access to the money. The main takeaway: habits can make or break our futures and eventually make us who we are. By changing our habits, we work towards outcomes we believe in. To begin this change, start by evaluating your current habits and decide which are in service of your long-term self. To form new habits, make the behavior attractive, satisfying, easy, and complementary to your lifestyle and personality. To break bad habits, remove environmental cues and triggers and make the task difficult to perform. Commitment devices and habit trackers help you stay on track and accountable.
Hi, I'm Rhonda, and this is an exclusive audiobook video recorded for the Audiobook Master channel. Enjoy your audiobook and have fun learning. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so you'll get updated on our next upload. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up and say your thoughts about the book we just covered. Do you want to listen to a summary or review of a book that we haven't covered in the past? Say it in the comments below or send us a message. Don't forget to check our other uploads. Enjoy listening!